Welcome to Senior Living Investment with Emily Bo. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you our guest, Kay Cabuco. Kay, along with her husband, has both 4 businesses and owns 2 successful assisted living facilities, collectively housing nearly 100 residents and boasting 7-figure revenues. Join me in welcome Kay to the show.
Hey, hi. Thank you for having me, Emily.
Thank you. So my first question for you would be, can you share what led you to invest and own senior living facilities?
Ooh, didn't really plan. You never thought I was going to become a businesswoman, right?
Mhm.
I was a nurse, working as a nurse, as an employee, W-2. I just enjoyed taking care of people. And my husband and I, we were just like, there's just got to be something more that we can do. We can do more for ourselves. And we started buying businesses. So the first and the second, it just any businesses really. We just knew that that's what our way of trying to double our revenue or income, right? And that was fun, but it wasn't fulfilling. And
Mhm.
then the opportunity came when we found there was an assisted living for sale. I just jumped on it.
And
But
what's special about assisted living, more like tailored to seniors? What's special about it makes you feel attractive to this kind of business?
this is really a personal thing. It wasn't honestly it for me at least. So after we bought the 2 businesses, that's unrelated to healthcare, obviously.
Mhm.
And I missed
Mhm.
my nursing degree. Like hung my nursing degree and I just kept looking at it. And I told my husband, I said, I kind of miss working as a nurse. And he was like, well, you
Mhm.
can go work part-time for someone else. As and I was like, well, yeah, no, maybe not working for somebody else, but I want to do something with healthcare and providing care for my patients. And
Yes.
that's what drawn me into assisted living. You can still provide the care. It is my business, it's my home, and there's no politics working in hospitals. It's all extra stuff, right? This is just me and my residents and compassionate care. And that's what makes it so special to me.
I love it. My next question for you is, with so many facilities out there, what stands out to you when considering an assisted living investment? If you can walk us through your due diligence process.
This is really like secret, really. For me, there's an IL or residential assisted living, residential, maybe 6 to 10 beds and below.
Mm-hmm.
Smaller board and care would be the term that we typically use, or the big box facilities, 100 bed and up, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you got the two difference. You're like, well, it's more intimate in a smaller setting, but
Mm-hmm.
it's too overwhelming in a larger setting. Then you residents get lost in that big facilities. And for me, I might be biased, but I feel like a smaller facilities provide more intimate care and more compassionate because it's such a smaller group, right? But the expenses have gone up so high that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes running a 6 bed may not even be profitable depending on
Mm-hmm.
location. So then that's when you're like, oh, what can we do? Well, we can increase it up to 10 to 15. And that's where I think that's where my special wedge is. It might be too small for big guys and then maybe too big for residential. So like in the mid range, I would consider myself mid range.
I love it. You mentioned those big box companies. I just wonder, why do you think most of those big box companies, they cannot perform as well? Can they just increase the staff to patient ratio? They can hire more staff members. If someone can manage something in a smaller scale, assuming that they have more experience, I will assume that they can also increase to a larger scale and run it well as well. Like, what makes the big box company doesn't have a good name, good
Yeah.
brand out there?
I honestly think it has to do with money, right? I feel like it's not someone who owns that size have to raise money. You have investors behind that you have to pay to, right? Maybe their loans become due or whatever it is. And it's all about numbers at this point. So
Mhm.
it kind of almost, well, I mean, from what I've seen is that you have a higher overhead cost because of
Right.
the loan amount that you're taking or whatever the investor, whatever the agreement, or I honestly don't know how that's structured, but I just truly believe that there's a lot more of those that some big box, what is it, BlackRock, they just want to park their money somewhere and then move on to the next deal or
Mhm.
whatever, right? And so the human piece of it just isn't there.
I agree. Once the business runs mostly just because of the money rather than the heart, that's
Mm-hmm.
when the business will actually fail. Yeah.
Yes. And they're going to have to squeeze every dollars out of your staff. So now, like, can they hire? Absolutely, they can. They can definitely hire more staff. Like I said, but they chose not to. And I think it's the cutting costs when I forget what it's called, when the loan becomes due or whatever it is. And they
Yeah.
cost. And that's when a lot of staff suffers. And that's trickled down to your care. And then the staff suffer, the residents suffer, right? Because there's not enough staff.
Completely agree. That actually leads us to the next question. Given the varying needs of assisted living facility, can you share your experience with balancing your investment return with resident care?
It's funny because I would say that assisted living provides a lot higher revenue when you compare to short-term rentals or midterm or multifamily. It blows multifamily out of the water. So you're already bringing a lot of revenue, but you also have a higher overhead cost and it's an
Correct.
active business. So it's more active than short-term rentals or whatever. In that case, and because we're smaller, from my own experience, again, I'm just sharing my experience. I don't have to sacrifice the staff because we make enough, we bring enough, and we haven't picked up any investors. So it's all in our money. So we don't have somebody that would have to report to and said, oh, we got to meet the minimum, right? If we have to get extra staff to provide that extra care, we can do that. So we don't have to sacrifice that care.
Okay.
And like I said, and it doesn't have to be anyone who, like I said, a mom and pop owned individually owned facilities will thrive better because it's that person and you don't have the extra costs and the extra pressure to meet the quotas and then you have to squeeze from your staff. I think it's hugely have to do with that because
I love it.
I really didn't have to at all sacrifice. And that is what I sell is the care. That is the product, products and services. And that's just what we focus and we don't have to sacrifice that.
If someone wants to get into assisted living, what's the typical entry cost? Say if they want to get something like around 15 to 50 beds, or maybe just do 15 to 20 beds. What's the entry cost or the line item of the entry cost that someone need to expect to have?
In terms of an entry cost at that size, are you talking about like you were to buy an existing or to start from scratch?
I would say buy, just like what you have been doing.
So buy, for example, for one of our first facility, we bought it for 1.8, but we use SBA loan, SBA Small Business Administration loans. It's a great loan to use. We only had to come up with 10%. Who would be willing to take 90% of the risk and you just only come up with 10%? I would do that all day long, right? So so 10% of 1.8, so 180 plus closing costs. And again, at that point, we had already had some savings from our other previous businesses. And if you didn't have that, I said partnering up with people with funding, there's a lot of money out there. You just have to be out and put yourself out there.
Since you are buying existing business, using your can cash flow day one, and I guess the cash flow that you generate that will be able to cover your staff cost, correct?
Absolutely. And that's how you're saying underwriting, right? When you do the underwriting, before you even jump into the deal, you have to make sure that all of your revenue is going to cover your expenses plus the debt service, the loan amount, right? And typically, again, from my own personal experience, a lot of banks aren't not going to loan you if they underwrite and they said, hey, this is not enough money to pay me because they want to get paid first, right? So it's almost like they're doing your due diligence for you. They'll just write requests for extra documents and you can dive into with it together. And when the numbers don't make sense, the bank isn't going to loan you, right? Because they want to get paid. So using the bank is really the best way to help you get the first deal. However, they're a little bit more strict because one of the requirements is that you have experience, some sort of experience in the field.
With you are a nurse. So you have the experience, and plus you also bought business before you bought this assisted living. So have both the entrepreneur experience plus the medical experience. That's give you a unique strength to get into this assisted living.
Yes, and that's what kind of gave us that we were able to get that deal. Otherwise, a lot of the businesses that we were looking at, all deals are deals, and again, we were running into a lot of problems when we don't have experience, the bank just won't loan you. And it is really buy an existing is the way to go because you get to cash flow right away from day one. Like, it's a no-brainer, right? If you have the money, I said that is my preferred method. It's starting from scratch could be a good idea. It may be lower upfront cost, but it could take a little longer and all the learning curves and the mistakes that you're making along the way, right? Versus buy something already existing, meaning it's already been operating, right? There's track record that it has been proven that it's going to make it for the next 5-10 years. And you have the best teacher in-house, right? That is the owner. And
Yes,
you can learn everything from that teacher and you just duplicate whatever's already working. Why reinvent the wheel is what I said.
completely agree.
Maybe add some things that make it a little bit more modern, technologies and whatnot. Other than that, like, system is still the same. The business model is still the same. You bring your residents and you care for them, being compliant on the state side, and that as simple as that. Treat people right, and everything will fall into place. It's an easy business for me. Like that, just from again my personal opinion.
Because you're doing it right. When you're doing it right, it's easy. If people want to get into loopholes, then it's not going to be easy.
Right.
So I love it. When you get this loan from the bank, do you show them something like the T12 PML and stuff like that? And you get it from the seller? Because I know in multifamily, sometimes it's kind of hard to get such statement, or there are numbers that even line up. How does it work for you?
Yes, I think it's really common with the business sales of business. They will require 2 to 3 years in your taxes and T12, obviously.
Okay.
It's almost like an understanding that they're going to have to provide that, especially when they come from a broker. And a broker would have an experience. It's like, okay, yes, I know that the bank's going to require this. They would have to, again, all T's are crossed, I's are dotted, right? Because it is an SBA government backed loan. So they have to make sure all these documents are supporting the revenue.
Now let's switch anchor a little bit. I know building a strong team is crucial for business. Can you describe your approach to staff recruitment and retention, and how that translates into creating a happy and fulfilling experience for residents?
That's a really good question. And that's really ultimately the secret to being successful in this business. Your staff is your product. If they're not happy, now you have a really bad product because it's going to show in the care. So, how do I combat that? Is they're all humans. We're all humans. And the thing is, for me, I use my own personal experience from working as a nurse. I remember working in, I used to be a float pool. So I would go to different floors and I would see the different culture in every floors. And I would hate to go to certain floors. And I know why I hate it. If there's no teamwork, I just feel dreaded to go there. Right. And when I had a manager, I asked for help and she just said no. And I'm just like, wow, I would never be that manager. And I would never be that charge nurse. So with that, carrying that in my head, I'm like, you know what? I will always be hands-on. I will always be supportive to my staff. That's number one. Treat them with respect. I'm not their boss. To lead is to support. That's how I lead, right? I support them and I meet them where they are. And I know them by their names. I know almost all their problems. And I'm very observant. So I don't micromanage, but I observe. Just building that and bridging everyone to create that there is no, what I find a lot is, again, from working as a nurse, AM shift versus night shift, and there's no AM or night shift. We're in one team, right? You have to bridge that gap, and then I refer to them as one team. And sometimes, every now and then, you'll hear that from your staff. You have set them aside, talk to them. What is it that's bothering them? What do they find that is making them feel that resistant, and break that and make sure that they merge into one. And that's very, very important, right? And also understand that human behavior, we can't be 100% of the time, right? And there's going to be, so I have my standards, I have my expectations, and they will meet my expectations most of the time. But every now and then we're on autopilot and we forget, and if we have personal problem, you'll see their attitude kind of drops a little bit, and then it drags everybody down. And you just got to be there to just, hey, I think I can help you, but just try to spend some time with your staff. I think that's really the most important. And you incentivize good behaviors as well. It's not just to scold them for being late or things like that. I feel like I've learned that if they make mistakes, I'm not going to go there, oh my God, you shouldn't be doing that. Okay, let's unpack this together. What is it why it's causing you not to meet the expectation? Let's try this out. And that seems to work really well for me.
Love it. Where do you learn all these leadership and management experience?
YouTube. YouTube, everything. You can learn anything on YouTube. Actually, that's how I learned how to buy businesses, through YouTube. Oh, you can buy a business? I just jumped right in and didn't really think a lot of it. The more you think about it, the more you're going to hold yourself back, because then you start feeling like, oh, what if that? There's always going to be a lot of what ifs. I think I'm super impatient. So that comes pros and cons, right? Impatient. So I just really impulsive. I do things, I'm like, oh, I regret it later. But then we will always find solutions, is what.
Love it. My next question will be senior needs. How do your facility ensure a smooth transition for residents as their care requirement changes?
I know there's a business model where they have independent living that can transition to their assisted living and then to their memory care. That is a perfect model. We don't have the independent, but we know they're going to needs are there. So we have assisted living and memory care in one. So with that, the training for our staff is already cross-trained. So we're already preparing that they are going to decline. This is their last stop, right? This is going to be, they're going to get older. They're going to need more help. So the training had already started from the beginning, and we're going to be expecting that. So we're continuously assessing them and if there's any changes. So our staff is already prepared to take care of that resident when they decline.
That's great. Do you tend to hire experienced staff or people who are not as experienced?
That's a hard one. I have a mixed answer. I preferably, yes, everybody always said experience is required. Honestly, I would rather train someone with compassion than someone with experience, but with bad attitude. So just really case by case. I look at that person and I read the person, how they are as a person, and I hire based off of that. And I'm willing to invest in that person, even though they will mess up or even if they don't have experience. I'm willing because it's going to shine. As long as you care for my resident with care, you can't go wrong. Like, just can't go wrong. But then for someone who doesn't care, even though they know how to do it, are they going to do it? Right? It's that integrity. What are they going to do behind closed doors? Right? And even if you have the skills to do it, but if you don't have the heart for it, it's kind of, it doesn't do you any good, really. So I rather hire somebody who's compassionate, because it's a hard job. It's a really hard job. You can go flip a burger for $20 an hour here in California. Why you could do that, but they choose to be here. So I know that there's that compassion there. You just have to be there to inspire them every day, to remind them why they're here, and to appreciate everything they do and let them know that they are appreciated.
Love it. How do you find these people? Is this through referral or you just go through those recruitment agencies?
Yeah, I'm sure that going through an agencies probably would be your quickest route. I haven't tried it out, but they have reached out to me that we do recruitments and all of that stuff. I haven't been able to lose that control yet. I have been actually the one who's interviewing people, just because this place, like I said, it's always been very special to me. So I almost like pick my staff. I want to meet that person. I want to know that person. I want to feel their energy, and it's always me. And so we just online, Indeed, Zip Recruiter, Craigslist, anywhere really, and then referrals from our current staff.
Now you own 2 assisted living facilities. What are the biggest challenges that you face in operating them?
The two, well, easiest is how the distant, right? It's like hours away from each other. Why we picked that far? I said I didn't choose it. It chose me. I always say that. So I think for me, at the beginning, it was challenging because the distance, so I could go back and forth. But it wasn't that bad because my first one has already been pretty semi-absentee. I've been focusing more here. And then if I had the choice to bring my kids here, then that would have been a little bit easier. I still have to drive back to actually be with my family, not so much of the other facility because it's already running by itself.
The first facility is basically run by itself. It seems like you already have a system in place for that facility. How are you going to build this system for this new facility that you have, which is almost like 70 beds, correct?
Yes.
What's your plan in terms of how you are going to build that system so that you can take yourself out?
Oh
gosh,
like it's funny. I wish I could just be like, yeah, I know this already. I'm still getting to know it. I'm still pretty new myself, but I am slowly every day. We just keep going. And then I'm seeing that even as of right now, I think I can probably remove myself. I don't do a day to day. I'm just here to actually bringing more of the revenue piece of it, but the operation, my staff got it. Okay.
Okay.
Not that it was already running by itself. No, it was underperforming. It was underperforming. So at the beginning, it required
Mm-hmm.
a lot of attention. Once we fix that problems, it's pretty, I would say, pretty stabilized right now. And now my job is to just focusing on bringing the revenue. So I'm here, but I can probably work anywhere. It's like I said, I just love my business. I love being in the business. I love being in it so much that it's not work to me.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And how do you do the marketing piece? How do you market your facility out? Do you put up big signs and do you work with placement agency? How does it work for you?
We do it all. We do mail marketing. Skilled nursing facilities is actually our biggest referrals because when someone falls or whatever, right, they go to the hospital and then they end up in the skilled nursing facility. And then they realize, oh, mom and dad, they're just not safe enough to go home. And that's when they realize, oh, we really have to find a place for our loved ones. So building the relationship with skilled nursing facilities, hospitals, that's going to be your biggest referral source. And we also work with referral agencies as well.
Love
Yeah.
it. I think from our conversation earlier, you also share with me you like to refer patient to other facilities if your facility is full, right? I really love that. Let me please share with us more about
Yeah.
that piece because I think that can be a good marketing for you as well.
It is. I love that. There's no competitions. There's our business, well, our facility may look different than other facilities. And so working with other facilities and collaborating with them, that's has been very helpful for me when I first started with my 15 bed. And there's a lot of
Hmm.
6 beds around, right? And they're capped at 6 beds. So even if they have calls, they're not going to be able to fill in their beds. And I understand they can be on a waiting list, but a lot of our residents end up not being able to wait because now it's they need placement immediately. They can't go home. So they can't
Hmm.
wait to be on that waiting list. So they have to find a place. So building relationship with other owners is it's really a great resource. They're definitely we've been referring to each other and that's been very, very helpful. There's no competition. Is it called collaboration over competition?
Correct. That's the abundance mindset that
Yeah.
every single entrepreneur that they should have. Yeah. What advice would you give to someone who is considering acquiring assisted living facilities?
I say you have to have a heart in this business. Even though I make it sound like it's easy, it's really not. If you're not in it for the right reason, you're going to be going in with a whirlwind. It's a lot of crazies, a lot of emotions, and a lot of stress that goes with this type of business because now you're caring for somebody's loved one. Somebody's life is depending on you, right? Even though we're non-medical, but we are. So with that being said, if you are in it for the right reason, it's almost hard not to succeed.
Hmm.
They need your care, they need your help, and as long as you help them you will thrive. But at the same time, being open-minded, right, building relationship with other owners, learning from other people, and networking. If you're going to start, from my experience, so tied into our savings, we want to save that money. Well, that money isn't going to, I have to empty out my retirement account. I empty out my retirement account and bought this business. We took that leap of faith, and now we're making a lot more than what I would have made if I would have left it in my retirement account. So there's unlimited opportunities when you jump into this side rather than working and saving. So
I
I
love
would just
it.
say, just go for it, just do it.
Do you think someone need to have the medical background, some similar to your background, to get into assisted living facilities?
It definitely helps if you do have the background. And if you don't, then you can hire an LVN or someone that's have experience in medical background. So it's not required, but it definitely helps. And just because you do have medical background or whatever doesn't mean you are going to thrive. I have a person that I know is a nurse and isn't really doing well because he doesn't have the open mind part of the business. You have to be a business person as well, right? So you can't just be stuck with being a nurse and being a medical provider.
What do you see as the future of senior living?
Well, I see there's a lot of needs. Baby boomers, 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every day or turning 65 every day. That is crazy. And when they turn 80, that's when they need help. And right now we're about 1.4 million beds short. Like it's going to be like in 10 to 15 years, 20 years from here, be a lot more. And again, we're competing with big boxes, but there's really no competition because you're going to be providing a better care, right? And the opportunity is here. I would say jump in now, learn the ins and outs so that you know expand in this path when you if your heart is here, obviously. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing, and be continuing expanding. And to me, it's not just about the money, because it's about how many people that I can save, how many people that I can touch. And I think that's my focus, and that's what drive me every day.
I love it. Now you get me so pumped. I also want to go and buy an assisted living facility. If people wants to know more about you and your team, where do you think they can go and find you and find more information about you?
I'm on Instagram, Kay Cabuco, and on
Okay.
Facebook. And I'll share my contents, my journey, so you guys can follow me there.
Okay, thank you for coming to the show and for generously sharing your experience and your skills with us. And your insight has been extremely valuable. Thank you. And I'm very
Thank
grateful
you.
for your time and contribution, Kate.
Thank you.